Dear friends at Broad Street, we are doing everything we can to be the church in the most healthy and responsible way that we can. It's been so hard for all of us to not be able to gather like we are used to gathering and to make adjustments after adjustments and watching about the time one thing happens and it changes. And so we want to say thank you to the health and safety team who have met every single week. They're watching the numbers here in Iredell County specifically, as well as in the state of North Carolina, so that we make the most responsible decisions we can make. And from the beginning, we have said we are going to let the data and the conference guidelines determine how we are the church during this coronavirus time. And so I'm very grateful to them for their really remarkable diligence to the church and thank them. So there are two things to know. One is we want to be back as much as we can, as soon as we safely can. And the other thing is to recognize that one of the characteristics of this virus is not only how serious it can be, but how quickly it can change. Numbers that were doing great, or positivity rates that were down, or hospitalization rates that were down, can flip on a dime. And we're seeing that all over the nation. And so that's one thing that we're watching. And the other thing that we are watching is that the reason that we have had as many cases as we have had in Iredell County and in other places, as you have probably read, is because of churches that were not as careful in their gatherings or their safety precautions as they should have been. Now, from the beginning, Broad Street has felt that we need to be a witness to the value of life and to how precious life is, and so safety has been a big priority for us, and we're going too fast for some people and too slow for others, so maybe that's just right. So let me give you updates as of the health and safety team meeting this week. Number one, our preschool has gotten a very successful start. They're working at half capacity of the number of students that we're used to having. They have a number of safety precautions in place, and we are delighted to say that has been going really well. Then we also are having our youth who are beginning to meet back here at the church on Sunday nights, and beginning this Sunday, Cindy is going to begin a children's program, which will be outside on the new playground. So that kind of covers for our young people. And what we want to talk about now is worship and how we are going to move forward to be together in worship. Now, to begin with, right now, everybody has an in-person option at 9 o'clock in the morning outside on the green space for well worship. We have been worshiping there since September at the usual time for the well service. You're welcome to come and bring a chair, and given the amount of space that we have outside, that is basically unlimited in terms of its capacity. Now, what we're hitting are weather considerations anytime we meet outside. So this is the next step that we are ready to take. And that is that beginning this week, if we have inclement weather, we are going to be able to move into Memorial Hall for well worship at 9 o'clock. So let's say to begin with that as long as the weather is pretty, it's been lovely worshiping out there. But as long as the weather's pretty, we prefer to be outside. But we haven't had a fallback until now for in-person worship if it's raining or if the weather is just like bitter cold. And so, beginning this Sunday, the Memorial Hall will be available as an alternative indoor space to worship for the 9 o'clock worship service only. And that will give us a good test of what it means to observe safety precautions inside. So let's say a word about, there's a big difference between outside worship and inside worship. the risk factors elevate dramatically with indoor worship. And so the ability to come indoors is dependent on our following really important safety regulations. And that's, I think, would be apparent to everybody, but the risk goes way up to people when we go indoors. So let us tell you about how indoor worship for inclement weather on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock is going to work, and what those safety precautions that we will have to take indoors will look like. So one is that it will be important for everybody to wear a mask. That's just a baseline. We do that because we love each other and we need to protect each other. Memorial Hall will be clearly identified in social distancing groups. We've had circles on the lawn. We're going to have squares in Memorial Hall, but it will be obvious. We will have done the social distancing spacing already for you. You'll be able to come in either the Broad Street door from Memorial Hall if you're parking on Broad Street, or the canopy entrance if you're parking off the parking lot on Walnut Street. Either door will have people who can register you. So everybody has to register for indoor worship and give us contact information in the event that we need to be back in touch with you if there does turn out to be an asymptomatic person who is at worship. And so you'll need to register, and when you register, there will be a couple of things that we ask of you. One is that we have a series of kind of screening questions. You have probably answered these in a lot of places. If you've gone to a doctor's office or if you have gone to a meeting, a lot of places are going to ask you these questions. We'll have them on the website. But have you recently had a cough, fever, shortness of breath, or a loss of taste or smell? If you have any of those things, we are going to encourage you to please stay home for your sake and watch us online. We're going to be online every Sunday at 11. Just, if you have had any of those symptoms, that's really the time for you to take the extra precaution, both for your sake and for church members that you love and care about. So that question, those 4 questions about those symptoms will be at the registration. There'll be a hand sanitizer station. We will not do temperature checks, but we will ask you to use the hand sanitizing station that will be available there. We will have limited bathroom access right there in the bathrooms off Memorial Hall, and they will be marked for coronavirus precautions that need to be taken. So you'll be able to come in and sit in your socially distanced place. The other thing that we're going to need you to be prepared for, it's just one of those things we need to do for now, and that is that when the service is over indoors, we will need to dismiss you gradually by rows to get outside. You know, one of the things we love the most about church is hanging around and talking to people. And when we're outside, we still need to be cautious about doing that. But inside, after we have already been in the building for, let's say, 40, 45 minutes, it's really important that people leave. We're not saying you can't speak to people in the parking lot, but we are saying that we will be dismissing people in an orderly way and asking you to gradually leave so that the risk to you from the inside time together is minimized. Now, I know people are saying, well, I get out and go to the grocery. I go to Walmart. Why can't I go to church? Well, when you go to the grocery or you go to Walmart, you're walking around. You're not staying in the same space, I don't think. I mean, it's a completely different experience as when you're in an enclosed space. The longer period of time you're there in that enclosed space, the risk goes up. So that's what we are taking into account. So you will be able to come in as you get there and find your social distance place. But just know, please help us that at the end of the service, we love you, and because we love you, we're going to be dismissing you in small groups so that we can gradually leave. Just for you to also know that the trade-off to coming indoors, whether it's in Memorial Hall or in the sanctuary, is that we've got to observe the safety precautions. That's the only thing that makes it possible. So I hope that you'll welcome this as a way of our being able to say, we will have 9 o'clock in-person worship no matter what the weather does. We prefer to be outside as long as we can this fall, but if the weather is not suitable, then come on to Memorial Hall and we'll be happy for you to join us for worship there. But you can come in person no matter what the weather on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock, and I hope you're happy about that. Now, our capacity for Memorial Hall is about 30 people. So because of the social distancing that we have to do along the way. So just to remember, come, let's try it, just like we have everything else. And you will find the gift of God's presence as we are as faithful as we can be to helping not only keep each other safe, but helping to be a witness in the whole community about how precious life is and how much we treasure each other. Now, the one other thing that we're working toward is in-person worship in the sanctuary. That has, because of the size and of the space, it's requiring a good bit more underlying preparatory work. So just to say, we're going to need safety guides to help us to get people in and seated and distanced and registered and all of those things that go along with worship indoors. We are hoping to be able to open up in the next few weeks. And so if you are willing to be a safety guide for us, we're going to need a number of people at entrances and for registration and for seating and for dismissals of worship. If you're willing to be in a pool of people to be a safety guide, please call the church office, or if you want to contact Dr. Peggy Wilhite, who's kind of coordinating that for us, and David Bullins is going to be doing a training so everybody will know just exactly what needs to be done so we can be very diligent about everybody's safety once we are able to open our wonderful, wonderful sanctuary. I hope that this has been an opportunity for each of us to remember that as precious as our sacred space is, that the presence of God is real and near to each of us, no matter where we are. So again, thanks to the health and safety team, we invite you with these safety precautions in mind to remember that even in inclement weather, we're going to be able to have in-person worship at 9 o'clock every Sunday morning beginning this week. And we will soon be back in touch with when we are going to start in-person worship at 11. Thanks to everybody for their patience, for their encouragement, and for their wisdom. You know, people have been wonderful in understanding why we're doing what we're doing. It is all for the glory of God. And we're all in this together, got to work together until we get past this terrible phase of life in terms of our community and our nation and our world. God bless each of you.